Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. My name is David.
And I'm Heide.
And today we want to do our second recap of our Kazakhstan expedition. We did already a recap from our first week there. And today we want to do a whole video about our whole 4 weeks there.
Yeah, and the first thing is maybe we want to structure this a little bit, so we have 7 questions prepared, and the first question is, what was the goal of this expedition?
So the goal of the expedition was to find and film pikas, but it was more like a project development for us and not like a whole film project. So we wanted to film 3 pika species, and we want to establish a workflow for us with the animals. We wanted to film the species itself for the first time for us, and we wanted to experience and learn how easy is it to get access to the animals, how easy is it from a logistic way to reach the areas where they live. And all this was part of the expedition. So we developed for us like the topic and wanted to use the footage we made in our own film, but also we want to pitch it to like bigger broadcasting services to make a whole maybe series or a whole film project about the pikas. And therefore, we invested in the development of this project to find good locations where we can film, to find the species, to learn how the species react to us, because 2 of the 3 species we think never seen humans before, so the animals we filmed there. So it was also new for them to meet like filmmakers and humans itself, and we hope they had a good impression from us. And so this was the main goal of the expedition, to establish a workflow for us, to find species, get first footage of them. And I think some of the species were never really filmed before in a professional way, so this was also kind of this expedition. So second question is, what was the hardest part of this expedition?
Of course, if you go on an expedition, you don't expect it to be easy. That's why we call it an expedition, not a vacation. It's work. It's hard work for all the 30 days. We didn't take one day off. And you expect to be uncomfortable. You expect to be like sleeping in a tent. You expect to be cold. You expect to go high up mountains to carry heavy gear and equipment.
To eat 4 weeks just rice and noodles.
Yeah, and maybe not to have easy access to medical care in case you need it. We didn't need it, which was good. And on this expedition, there was many things that happened that we couldn't influence and that make it hard to prepare for or to prevent. And I think the hardest challenge for us was the problems we were facing with the rental car. Because after the first week we had to change the car to an off-road car. And firstly, it was not really up to the job because it was more like a city SUV and not as high as you would need for this kind of terrain that we did, like the kind of roads and places where we went. Also, the tires were almost flat. It was like winter tires, but they had no grip, which made it more difficult to like navigate, especially like in the second area where we had to like go on slippery roads after the rain. But the most challenging thing was that the car was losing pressure on one tire all the time, and you could not really, like, we didn't really find a hole, and it was like always the question, can we make it, and can we just pump it up again, or do we have to change the tire? but mostly the electronics, because there was a major failure with the electronics, and it's just something that should not happen to a car, that it goes on and off by itself, and that the alarm signals go off just when you close or open a door randomly, and also the locking.
Yeah, so the problem was with the alarm, for example, was that we had a fear that our battery is running low, and this is especially dangerous when you're in the middle of nowhere, 2 days away from the next house or village, and you have no battery power left. You can't start the motor, so this could be a very dangerous situation. And also when the car starts randomly, when you do nothing, so we stand outside of the car with the key in our hand, pressing no button, and the motor starts. This could be dangerous because when we're running out of fuel, and we don't see that the car starts or something, and we are going away and the car starts, then we're running out of fuel, so it could be a very dangerous situation. And we had this one really dangerous situation, which could be also a life-threatening situation, where the car locked itself, and we're standing outside and the key was in the car. All doors were closed. We was just going quick out to look, can we build up our base camp there at this place. Closed the doors, and the car randomly locked itself, and all of our expedition gear was inside of this car: our tent, our sleeping bags, warm clothes, our GPS, our first aid kits, everything was in this car.
The only thing we had on ourselves was a mobile phone without any battery left, but there was no mobile phone connection anyway, so it wouldn't have been of any help, and a pocket knife.
And a pocket knife, yeah.
So what do you do? In the middle of nowhere, it's getting dark, it's freezing at night. What do you do when there's a real risk that you might get at least injuries by the cold, and
yeah, so
possibly be in a life-threatening situation?
Yeah, so we had minus degrees at night, and our only thing we could do was, in the end, to smash a window to get access again to our stuff. And this was a really nerve-wracking situation. And when it was at the first day in the second week, I think, at our filming location, and so we had 3 weeks ahead. Almost 3 weeks left, and it was almost every day something with this car, and you always had that in your mind, and it was the pressure: can we start the motor again? Can we leave this place? Will we stay here? We had a leaking pipe in the car at the third week in a semi-desert area 2 days away from the next street, and we didn't know, can we start the motor again? Can we leave this place here?
It was just losing air, and we didn't know what is this cable meant for.
Yeah, air and liquid. Yeah. So, and we had all this situation with this car again and again, and this was not funny, and it was really nerve-wracking, and yeah. So I agree with you, this was the most annoying thing of this expedition.
Was it a vacation or an expedition?
Yeah, so a lot of people wish us a nice vacation when we left for traveling, but it was an expedition. I maybe plan to do an own video about the difference between an expedition, an excursion, and a vacation. Maybe I do this because I think it's very interesting also for you to see the difference. But it was definitely an expedition, so we had a scientific approach why we wanted to go there. So we wanted to find the pika species, we wanted to learn more about their behavior. we wanted to film them for maybe for the first time, we're not sure, but to get very rare footage. It was very not accessible places, so it was very hard to get there. The terrain wasn't easy, and so from this definition point, it was an expedition, but it was really no vacation. So it was working 30 days, 24 hours per day. So even when you sleep, you're sleeping in the tent, you're sleeping on stones, you're sleeping in the cold, you're sleeping with snakes and poison spiders around you. All of the things we camped 1 week in an area where wolves and bears appears in the forest around us. So
I think even if you like outdoor vacation, you would choose different places to stay. Like you would not stay in one place for 1 week just because there's a certain kind of animal, and you would maybe travel more, and you would not pass on certain places that were like, oh, it's really nice here, but you have to go on because you need to reach your next location.
Yeah, we had, I think, 2 spots where I wanted to go just for private reasons, because I really wanted to see them.
But this is the first thing to go if you're like on a tight schedule. We managed it, but it was like questionable whether we would make it.
And this were like two days where we did this, and this were like logistic travel days for us. So
it was just a few hours.
It was just a few hours
stopping
on our route to our next filming location.
Yeah.
And that's just different to traveling and be on vacation and relax and just do a little hiking.
And decide, do we stay here today or do we move on maybe? Yeah, it's a difference.
And you really have also to be prepared for different situations than in a vacation. So you have to be prepared in first aid and medical things, like what happened when someone of us gets sick, what happened when you broke your leg or something. So you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared in kind of like where to go. So with the GPS, with maps, everything what you need to how's it called,
to get orientation and
to
navigate
navigation. Yeah, that was
to navigate, and even if you don't have access to internet connection and GPS, maybe only your GPS, but you don't have any connection to a map service.
And so maybe just one example, we had this one area we called pest area, because there is like this scientific debate going on if the pests spread out from this place which we visited. It was really in the middle of nowhere, and it was not beautiful, and it was like we feel not comfortable in this place, and it was like, we not really want to stay here. There were a lot of snakes,
like 2-meter snakes,
2-meter long snakes. It was a semi-desert, so no beautiful plants or something. It was just like Mordor or something. So
and we felt relieved when we decided that no, we didn't find any active pika here. Maybe like some relics of old pika inhabitation, but when we were kind of relieved when we decided to move on to the next spot.
But if we had find their pika, we had to stay there, even if it's not a comfortable place for us. And so I think it was definitely no vacation, but a cool adventurous experience, and
exhausting expedition.
And very exhausting expedition. Okay.
What gear did we use?
What gear?
Yeah.
So camera gear.
Yeah.
So we used a lot of different camera gear. I'm also maybe planning a video about all of my camera gear I use for filming. It's very adapted to the species we film.
Like small mammals.
Small mammals.
Or like medium-sized mammals.
Yeah, medium-sized
like
mammals.
Hamsters.
Yeah, hamsters, like pikas, mice. So this size. So we had 2 main cameras with us. Of course we used our trail cameras a lot. We brought with us 6 trail cameras with very good resolution.
For two reasons. One is for spotting, because the trail cameras are really good help if you leave them for one day and you can go spotting for yourself, but you know like what's moving there at night, because one of the species was also nocturnal.
Yeah.
Or they have some kind of nocturnal behavior, which we of course also would like to show.
And they also have underground behavior where it's dark, even at day.
And the trail cameras are just a good way to know like maybe what entrance to a burrow do they use recently, or just for spotting reasons, but also to get footage, because the cameras are adapted in a way and chosen in a way that they make really good footage and we can actually use it.
Yeah, and then we brought our base of everything we need to make a good movie. So motorized sliders, our cable cam, our gimbal,
the drone,
everything to remotely control our camera from far distance to film the animals. But you always have something on your wish list when you're there, and this was also the reason for project development. For example, at this one location I really wished I had a crane, like a real camera crane to do nice movements above the mountain slopes and the stones there. And this is something I put on the wish list when we pitched the project to other company, to a producer. Then I really wanted to calculate this in, because there's always something you wish you could do there, and there's some kind of technique and gear that can show the place in a different way. But this is one reason for project development, to see these possibilities, to see what you can do at a specific place there. So a lot of gear. We traveled with 4 major bags of 20 and 3 kilograms, and the most of them was not our clothes, but camera gear and expedition gear. So tents, sleeping bags, everything.
Next question.
Which of the 3 species was the easiest to film?
This is very easy to say. Like, it got harder with every species, actually. We might have expected this for the first species, because it was in a kind of touristy area where there's many people, like day tourists, coming and taking a walk and hiking. So they were more used to people, to like seeing humans from some distance, and they were most active, I would say. It's like the interesting thing about pika, if you don't know them, they're really cute, and there's many different species over many continents, but they mostly look the same. If you don't know them, you can not tell the different species apart, but they live very differently. So like, this is what makes it interesting to like have a movie with different pika species, because some of them are very social, others are more like solitary, and
some live under stone, some live in
the steppe.
In the steppe, in real digged soil burrows. So they're different in their behavior, and
this is what makes them different and interesting. In this first species, they live in small family groups, parents and the offspring of the year, and they collect food for the hate piles, which is very typical for pika, and we could actually observe this like hoarding of food for the winter. and I think that made it easiest, made the species easiest to film in some way.
Yeah, so then it gets harder with the second species. They were more shy, and we had to film them more in close range, what it makes even harder if you have a shy species, because we had not that much space on the very steep mountain slopes where we worked. And the third species, the Kazakh pika, we had one individual, what we found at the first time, that was very shy, and we found just at the last day 2 other animals, individuals that were not that shy, but it was too late for us, so we had just 1 day left. Yeah, but as we already said, we think that the large-eared pika, the second species, and the Kazakh pika, we think they never really seen humans before.
Yep.
So there's also some kind of just randomly out of nowhere for the species or for the animal, they're sitting 2 animals in front of them or in far distance, but there is something new. And even if we are not dangerous or doing something, not moving, there's just something new for them. And there's like always this kind of adapting process, and yeah.
Yeah.
So next question is, would you do this trip again? So as we told, it was a project development meant for doing a larger project about pika. So would you do it again if we got financial support?
Yeah, of course, if we would get, if we could successfully pitch this project, I would do it again. But do the very same trip again, it would be a challenge if you went into it and knew what was coming. Especially the last week, to me personally, was kind of hard. I was a little bit counting the days to go back, but we were successful and we did what we came for, and I think, of course, yeah, it was a success, so I would do it again probably. And you?
Yeah, I definitely also would do it again, in other circumstances, like more time to film every species, a different car. This would be the first thing. Maybe I have to find some way, if you know something, how you can get your car to like Central Asia without driving, maybe by train or something else. Write it in the comments. I'm really looking for some tips how to get your own car in such areas without driving 2 weeks non-stop. And also there are some areas from Germany when you're trying to Kazakhstan through Russia that would be hard for us to get the visa.
Yeah, at least now.
At least now. So if you know something, write it in the comments. But under other circumstances, I totally would agree. I would do it again. Would be cool to film them again and to see them again, to visit these places again. Say never, never.
Final question. What was the outcome, and will there be a making of?
So there will be a making of. Some of you asked already. We filmed also a lot of behind the scenes footage and vlogs for YouTube, so you can really look forward to all of the footage
and all the disaster.
And all the disaster.
But also the nice, like when we were successful.
Yeah. So there will be a making of. There will be. We plan to make a film about our first and our second Kazakhstan expedition, so the expedition of last year and this year's expedition.
Last year we were looking for the common hamster.
Last year we had the expedition to be the first persons who filmed common hamsters in in the wild steppe of Kazakhstan. So we plan to do a whole movie about this experience and every animals we seen in between, because we seen a lot of different animals and had a chance to film them. But we also want to pitch the pika project, as we said, to like producers and television or streaming services. And yeah, maybe we get a chance to do a whole pika series or movie, so this would be really cool. So this was the main outcome, and of course, as always, experience and learning. So we learned a lot again about a new species we were very interested about, and we learned a lot about the country, about the people, about expedition lifestyle, working in a team. So you got so many experience, even if it's bad experience. We learned a lot. And even if you go to another country or search for another animal, you always can suffer from experience from the last expeditions, the last trips, the last projects you did.
Yeah. So we hope this was interesting to you. Check out the first video. It will have English subtitles as well about first week we spent there, and look forward to the vlogs about our expedition to Kazakhstan.
So stay tuned, subscribe and like the video, and yeah, see you soon.
Have a good day.
Bye bye.
Bye.